by now you've had a chance to look through the instruction packet that I built for you, which gives you all of the steps to making a self-portrait. We are going to do a draw along today and next week to kind of further explain what the packet's talking about and give you a chance to ask any questions that you need to ask while we're working before we start on our final portrait. You can work along with the packet. Just remember, while the video is playing, you are watching the video. When I put my pencil down and say go ahead, that means it is your turn to do that step, and then you can use the packet as well to remind you. So starting with the shape of the head, you need to make a lowercase t shape. It's very important to understand that this shape of the head is not permanent. Get a shape that is pretty good. It doesn't have to be perfect because you can erase the shape of the head, and in fact I do that all the time. After I draw the head shape and then I put in the eyes, nose, and mouth, I go back and adjust the head shape so it fits right. So you just need the head shape to start measuring, and then you can adjust it later. Don't spend an hour obsessing over making a perfect head shape. So many friends get stuck on the first step and then they don't have any time to complete the rest of their portrait because they're so obsessed with making a head shape that is perfect. That is not necessary. Get something that's pretty good and move on. Okay. So I need a lowercase t. I'm kind of drawing sideways, so it's not going to be super amazing. Now the T, you really need to draw light because you want to erase it later. You're not going to see giant lines in the middle of your face. I'm going to draw my T darker because you will see it better on the video. Please draw lightly. This is how light, and notice where I'm holding my pencil. When you hold your pencil way down here, you tend to push harder, like when you're writing something. When you're sketching or drawing, move your hand further up. It'll feel weird for a little while, but what happens is you can't push as hard when your hand is higher up on your pencil. So it's a good thing to practice. Also, am I drawing my line in one go, or am I making kind of little strokes? I'm making little strokes. And a lowercase t means that this line across is going to be shorter than the line down. Now you may not really be able to see this because I did it super light because it's just for a reference when I start drawing the head. I'm going to darken this line now so that you can see it on the video. Please don't push this hard with your pencil because you won't be able to erase it very easily. Another thing that you can do is move your paper around when you're drawing something so it's easier. It's a lot easier to draw lines down sometimes than across. So when you're doing a line across, turn your paper so you can draw that line down as well. Alright, so lowercase t, longer than it is wide, otherwise our head would be a giant circle, and our head should be more like an egg shape or an upside down egg shape. Now, the next thing people do is they go, okay, well, all I got to do is attach all four sides, so I'm going to do this. And you get a head that looks like a giant kite. You don't want that. Our face is not flat and pointy. It is round and soft. So those are the kind of lines you need to make, round and soft. The top of your head is not pointy. It is flat. Some people can even balance books on top of their head. So the very top should be pretty flat. I even say this in here to help you remind you not to do straight lines down. You might want to start by drawing some curves on either side. The roundest one will be this one because this is your chin. So up top is pretty flat. The sides are kind of where your cheekbones will be. And then the bottom is pretty curved. Again, it really depends on the shape of your face. Everyone's face is different. What we're doing today is just an average face. So No one's face usually will look exactly like this, but it's a good place to start and it's a good way to practice. So right now I'm making the top of my head. Notice I'm not now taking this and going straight down. I'm curving it out more. I am doing a little bit at a time, making my way down. So the top two, if you look, I have split it into 4 pieces, which makes it easier to make it a little more even. Now when I do this side, it's going to be harder because my hand is working against a curve. This, my hand did very easily the curve, so I'm going to turn it so that my hand can make that same motion by going upside down. I'm noticing it's a little flat there, so I'm adding extra sketch lines. And once I got the one I like, I get rid of the ones I don't like. Don't worry so much about erasing every second. I get the line I want before I start getting rid of the other ones, because it kind of teaches me where I don't want my line. Now when I come down here, these are going to be more narrow. I'm noticing I maybe made my T a little too long, so I'm going to adjust it a little bit right now. Again, I'm not going to worry too much because this is just a guide. I will change the shape of the face later. These are going to be a little flatter, not super flat, so making it a little curve. And then I've got to do the other side. I'm going to turn it again, because it's much easier for me to do this motion than that motion. There we go. All right. It's a pretty good shape. I'm not totally happy with it, but it'll be good for now. And that's all that matters. So you can see those lines. I'll darken them a little bit. It's always a little bit lighter when I play the video. So. Alright, so now we're going to move on to the eyes. And the eyes, if you want to get it right, you measure how long your eye is. You have 2. The size that they are, there's exactly the same size in the middle, meaning that you could fit an eye the same size right here if you measure it. Does that mean you should put a third eye there? No. But it helps you figure out how close or far apart your eyes should be. They shouldn't be any closer or further apart than 1 eye. So measure that. Same thing if you're looking straight at somebody, there's generally about another eye length on either side of your head. So if your eyes are way out here, you really need to push them in a little bit. Make it so that you can fit about 5 eyes across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just measuring, okay? Don't actually draw 5 eyes. Using that line that we're going to draw helps make the eye shape a little bit easier, and it also helps you be able to kind of match them a little bit better. No eye looks exactly the same on one side that it does on the other. Not in real life and not in a drawing. If they are perfectly the same, it looks very weird because it's not realistic. So don't obsess over making your eyes exactly the same. None of the eyes I've drawn are exactly the same. They're close. I've had a lot of practice, but sometimes somebody's eye is puffy, or maybe you're winking, or maybe you're looking at something and one eye has a slightly different shape than the other one. Don't worry about making it even and perfect. So this line right here, where we've drawn the head, is around where your eyes are. Generally, it's a little bit lower. In this case, I actually think I made my line lower. I need enough space up here to do my hairline. On this paper, it says that you need to measure equal distances between your, for your eyes, between the top of your head and the bottom. So it's right in the middle. It's halfway between. Your eyes might sit a little higher on your head or a little lower. That's something you're going to have to look at when you get the mirrors later. So mine is kind of pretty accurate where it is. Mine might be a little bit lower. Again, I'm not using a ruler. Some people obsess over rulers. Oh my gosh, I need a ruler, I need a ruler. You don't need a ruler. These lines are just guides to help you. So I'm erasing that other one because I don't want to get confused. And again, I'm making my line darker just so you can see it, but try to keep it as light as possible so it's easier to erase. You can actually still see that first line because of that. So I need to figure out how wide, how big my eyes are going to be. Before I actually draw the eye, I'm going to make just some lines, making sure it's about the same distance and that these are about the same size. One's a little bit wider, and that the same length is about in the middle. So here, here, here. This looks pretty good. So I know how big my eyes need to be now. The top part of your eye is usually more round than the bottom. So I'm arching up short and curving down long. And the bottom part is pretty shallow. Pretty shallow. You know what, I'm looking and I think my eye is a little small. I should adjust that line a little bit more. And again, I'm pushing harder. You shouldn't push too hard when you're just trying it out. I would go lighter, making sure you can still see that line. I'm going to adjust this one over so it matches. And then high, short, and then low, long. It's almost like a football shape. So if you have trouble breaking it down like this and it's just easier to draw a shape, it's almost a football. More space up top than at the bottom. The bottom's always flatter. And are they perfectly even? No, and I'm not worried about that. Inside, you need to draw 2 circles, not full circles, mostly full circles. And I'm going to get rid of those just so it's easier to see. I'm almost making a very, very curly U. And it looks like I'm looking up. And I'm filling a good bit of the eye. And then inside that, I will make a smaller one. Almost looking like a C at this point. Why do you need 2? Because the inside is black, the pupil, and then the iris, which is your color, and then outside of that is the white of your eye. So there's 3 colors in your eye. Since we're just doing a pencil sketch, you may shade it in with your pencil. When we get to the final, leave it open like that so that you can add color and black to it later. It's much easier than trying to erase all your pencil lines. So what I always do with my eye is I leave a little bit of white somewhere on the black part so it looks more accurate. This looks like a really sad eye, so I'm actually going to arch it up a little bit so we can see. Yeah, my eye looks a little sad over there. And I'll try to match the shine. So the shine is kind of in the lower part. So I'll do there. Okay. And then the iris will be a color. I'm just going to lightly shade it, just so I can tell the difference between the white of the eye and the color. All right. So those are my eyes. You can add other details like the creases where your eyelids are underneath if you have deep set eyes like I do, and your eyebrows. Your eyebrows are going to be above, almost near where that other line where your head was. So mine was pretty low. I'm not going to put my eyebrow there. I am going to make a line above it. So that's going to be for my eyelid. You'll have a crease above, and I have deep set eyes, so I usually have a little crease underneath. Your eyebrows should start before your eye and end after your eye. Now that, again, is just average. Some people have very short eyebrows. Some people have long ones. Some of them have very thick eyebrows. Some people have very thin. When we're doing a self-portrait, you need to pay attention to the type of eyebrows you have. Mine aren't as long. Mine are kind of shorter. And there's a scar in one of them. so there's a spot. And since I'm doing a self-portrait, I'm gonna leave that spot. And when I do eyebrows, after I figure out where it's going, kind of make the lines come out a little bit so it looks more like hair. Like grass, think about grass. It's kind of the same thing. When you're finished with your eyes, pencil down. Moving on to the nose. The nose, if you measure, a lot of people make their noses way too small, noses and mouths. Noses and mouths are usually bigger than you think they are, and a good way to measure is using your eyes and the line you made for your eyes to determine how long the nose is and how wide it comes out. It's halfway generally between your eyes and your chin, so another half point. So that will be where the nose ends, and it says that on here, your nose ends halfway between. When you do the first line, that shallow U, it's a cheat line. It's again just a guide to help you make the nose shape. It will come as wide as where your corners of your eyes are. This is average. I'm making this line super light because it's not part of my nose. So my halfway point is about here. So this is where the U will come. I'm pushing harder so you can see it. Don't make that too hard because that is not your nose. That is a cheat line to help you make a nose shape. It's about as wide as where the corners of my eyes come down like this. So I know. I don't need those lines. Those are just to show you. You can make them super light, or you could just kind of use your pencil and estimate, okay, that's where it stops, and make a mark. Right down here, that's where it stops. All right, so in here, I need to make the nostrils. I'm not gonna make them attached to that line. All right, I zoomed up because I realized it was getting way too small to see. I don't want to start right on the line because our nostrils, there's a little bit of space in between each one. Either side of the line, I'm making a little half circle right on the U shape. That U shape's a little crooked. I'm drawing sideways, so it's kind of hard to see. Doesn't have to be perfect. Again, the sides of your nose aren't ever going to quite match up. That's not how that works. These are the nostrils, and then we need to extend out. The other part of your nose curves up and over, making like a U that's attached. And if you look at it, it almost looks like a sideways S. Now that I don't need that cheat line, I'm going to very carefully erase it because I don't need it anymore. It will probably erase part of your nose, but now that you have the line, all you have to do is go back and darken it again. Since this is a pencil drawing, you may shade in the nostrils a little bit so it's a little more natural. Try not to do that when you get to your final one because we're not going to use pencil to shade them in. For the top, if you really want to, you can add part of a line coming down, but we don't actually have a crease here. It's just skin that's arched up. I will show you how to shade with colored pencils. For now, I'm actually just going to shade with a little bit of my pencil line. Now this is an average. I'm looking at this nose. This is way longer than my nose. Way, way longer. So I would probably make my nose a little higher on the page. Some people's noses are more narrow. This nose is pretty wide. If you were doing one that was more narrow, I actually drew a couple of them, a couple of them down here. So this one's pretty like thin but wide. This one's really narrow, so the curves come up higher. This one is very wide, so they curve out a lot more. You have to look at the shape of your nose to decide what yours will look like. When you're finished with the nose, pencil down, eyes up front. Okay, moving on to the mouth. Between the nose and the chin, it ends around halfway there, so that would be the bottom lip. Again, that is just an estimate. So between the nose and the chin, about halfway, this is where the lips end. So this is the bottom lip that curves up. Above this, I'm going to draw almost like an M shape. So it's a curve up and then out. How wide do you make your lips? You look on the reference. In the center of your eye, if you do a dotted line all the way down, that's where your lips should end. An average lip. You'll really have to measure where your lips end to figure that out. Now, looking at my head shape, I can already tell I really need to adjust the head shape. I'm okay with the face, but the head shape is really, really off. So as soon as I'm done with the lips, I'm going to adjust the head shape a bit before I go on to the hair. So my mouth is about this wide. Now I can attach the bottom lip. So all I'm going to do is just very gently curve it upwards. And then all I need is the top lip. Right now all I have is the bottom. Right above the top lip, I'm almost just going to mimic that. Now everybody's is different. Some people have a pointed dip. Some people have a curved dip. You can draw that here. The dips are a little bit different from each other. Some people have thinner lip. Oh my God. All of these dips look different from each other. Some of them are wider and softer. Some of them are thinner. You really have to look at your own lips. And the top lip is usually thinner than the bottom. Again, that's just average. Some people's are about the same size. Generally though, the top lip is just even a little bit smaller. They might be near the same size. When you're finished with the lips, put your pencil down. Alright, now before I move on to the hair, I really need to do something with the head. I don't want to bring the head top too much lower because I do need space for my hair, but I'm realizing the head is way higher and the chin is a little lower. So I'm just adjusting, and when I'm adjusting, I'm going to curve and spin. Notice I haven't erased anything yet. I'm adjusting, and then now I'll take another look at it and see if I am happier with that. All right, that's better. That's much better. Oh my gosh, I look more human now. If you need to adjust your head shape, go ahead, adjust your head shape a little bit. If you wanted to work on another part that you really didn't get to finish, work on that a little bit. And in a few minutes, I'll ask you to put your pencil down again. Right, we are moving on to ears and the neck, which is on the next page of the packet. If you are measuring and you kept those lines, which I told you to keep, you'll know exactly where your ear starts and stops and where to put the neck. These lines are important. So I didn't actually do a nose line, I just did a dot, so I'm going to just do a very, 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 very faint line. You might not be able to see it. I'll mark the edges a little darker so you can see that. So that's where my ears are going to start, about where the corner of the eye is. Bring it up and down. Now you don't need to make your ear a super C. You want it to be pretty flat. Even if your ears are a little bigger and they stick out a little bit, it's not going to stick out a crazy amount. Yours might be curved a little bit more than mine, but it shouldn't be too much more. Inside, at least try and do a second little C for part of the ear. If you want to get super detailed, there's a little drawing down here as well if you want to do more ear details. But it's always nice to at least make another crease in your ear. The neck. If you make your neck starting right where your ears are, you're going to look like the Hulk. It's going to look really like way too much. I'll darken it so you can see. That is not an accurate neck normally. Nobody in here has that kind of a neck. If you do feel where your ears end though, it is the base of our neck. Our neck, however, curves inwards. So we don't see it usually coming right out from our ears. We probably see it more around where the lip line, that line where our lip ends, we start seeing it around then. And depending on your neck, it may show up earlier or later. It's just an average. Our neck is thicker than you think it is, although it's not as thick as that. We are doing shoulders, so I will just say briefly with the shoulders. The shoulders should be as wide as your head. So starting here, if I have a line down the center of my body, I can take my fingers, measure about how wide my head is, and then bring it down to the center line. Look where my thumb is, and that's how wide my shoulders should be. So my shoulders should come out to here. Okay, that's how I know how much shoulder to do. In fact, I think I need even a little bit more shoulder than that. Notice I'm not doing one line. I have many lines, little lines that help me determine that. Same thing, I'll measure how wide my head is. They slope down, they don't come straight out. Especially if you're relaxed, your shoulders will be sloped down a little bit. When you're finished, pencil down. Alright, now onto the hair. Hair is very, very difficult to do. And it takes practice. Some hair is harder than others, but this hairline right here is a estimation of where your hairline is. You need to look in the mirror and see. Some people have bangs, so they'll be lower and might be right where your eyebrows are. You might have a really short haircut, so your hairline's very high. Don't really just draw that line. You can make it really faint so you know where to put your hair, but don't draw a big dark line there. It's just a guide. You don't want to just do hair on this part because then you're bald on either side of your head. So from this line, you do need to curve it down, which is what I do here. You come down the sides almost to where your ears are. It curves around your head. Curly hair, you can do C's, lots of C's, or wavy hair. The braids are a little trickier, so I will show you how to do those. And also if you have super short hair, like this one, I also draw some of it here. The super short hair is just lines, like grass almost. Some of your hair might come up, some of your hair might turn to the side, so you have to figure out which direction your hair is going in. I'm going to do my hair just to show you how I would do. I have side bangs right now, so I'm not drawing every strand of hair. I'm trying to make a shape. Now my head isn't going to be this flat. My hair pops off my head. It grows out of my head, so I will be drawing hair that comes up. Now you can have some hair coming in the front. You could have hair hanging behind. That's really up to you. So all of those lines that show where my scalp is need to go away. Since my hair is coming in front over here, I erase part of the shoulder line. Okay. Now before you get started, I am going to show you some braids. If you have braids, let's say like cornrows, but this could also be for larger braids too. You would just draw the shape bigger. Pick where your braid's going to be. In the case of cornrows, you would have lines probably coming like this. Leave some space in between. Can you see that? Might be a little white. Some space in between. And then on either side, it shows in a picture. Almost like little ovals on either side, and you just kind of alternate going back and forth, or teardrop shapes, and they can fall down on the sides of your head as well. But you just take those lines and draw the ovals on either side. So going back, I am just alternating. And I'm noticing my lines are really spread out. I don't need them that spread out, so I will move them closer together. You can adjust as you go. You're not stuck with the first line you do. I might just add a second one in there. Alright, so you get the idea. I would do a lot of them. It is a lot of work, but the people who have done it in the past that do the braids, it looks really neat. It really does. If you were doing one just like down the side, if you have like a big braid instead of cornrows up here, you would draw just straight hair like I did up here on top if you have just straighter hair or pulled back hair, and then underneath of it near where your neck is. Even if your braid goes straight behind you, it's a little bit easier if you draw it over one shoulder so people can see it. Some people have those really big braids. You could draw a line where you want it to go and then just make those big ovals and make them kind of come out. Braids are tricky. They're almost like parentheses, I would say. When you get bigger, they're almost like parentheses in a sentence. Mine goes off the page. All right, mess around with the hair a little bit, and when you're finished, I would like for you to adjust anything you want to adjust, flip your paper over if we have extra time, and I want you to start another practice one. The more practice you can cram in, the better. Okay?